Around this same time in June, JR was on record as saying that Steve Williams was being considered for a contract. Was he just Dr. Death's friend till the end, man?
Yes, he was. And I admire that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think there were, we all had our favorites, and we all had guys that we were always trying to bring in that may not be the perfect fit, but you want to try and help them out. Michael Hayes was somebody that was told no, I can't tell you how many times, but every opportunity that there was for something that Michael might fit into, I'd say, what about Michael Hayes? No. What about Michael Hayes? No. And then we were in a spot where, Michael Hayes would do really well there. Bring him in. And then the rest is history. So Dr. Death was JR's, and they were friends from, Oklahoma boys. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. And it's not like Doc was a bad talent.
Right.
But yes, JR was going to push him to the ends of the earth.
8 days before Bad Blood, you guys ran a pay-per-view in England, Insurrection. And on top, it's Triple H beating Kevin Nash in a street fight to retain the world title, 16 minutes and 33 seconds. Anything you can tell us about Insurrection 03 here?
God, it's another one of those I blocked out, but it was for the UK only, specifically for the UK, not really available. It wasn't available anywhere else. And it also enabled Kevin and Triple H to work out a lot of the things that they were going to do in the Hell in a Cell match. It gave that was the storyline. That was the main event storyline we were doing on all the shows at the time.
Maybe the big news in the industry at the time is that longtime producer Dave Sahadi is no longer with WWE. And I think we've covered him a lot here on the show. He's responsible for some of those great videos that we've seen over the years, including, ring entrance videos, the pay-per-view video summaries, but the really classic stuff, Lonely Road of Faith. And Triple H's return video where I think it's a U2 song. The stuff with Creed that they did through the years, really classic stuff. And he's sort of just gone here. Wade Killer would write, quote, "He will be missed big time. He contributed so much," says one WWE employee who has worked with him. He worked alongside Kevin Dunn, the head of production, and for years and years, he was often referred to as a genius and an artist when it came to his production skills, but he's gone. What happened here?
Dave was burnt out, and Dave was looking to take some time off. He wanted to take a leave of absence and come back. The feeling was, if you're going to leave, then leave. But there's no guarantee that your job is going to be here when you come back. And Chris Chambers was also working a lot with David Sahadi during that time. So I think there was a misperception sometimes that it was all Sahadi. He had a great team around him.
Let me ask you that, because I wanted to bring up Chambers specifically for that. I feel like every now and again, and you recently touched on this when you went on a little bit of a rant about the whole Fire Road Dogg narrative that happens amongst fans, that people are just saying Fire Road Dogg because he's the only name they know of guys who are involved in creative. I feel like that happens a lot with Sahadi. So anytime there's like a really cool WWE video, everybody just assumes, oh, that must be Sahadi. He's become almost like, I'll have a Coke, or I need a Band-Aid, or hand me a Kleenex. He is a brand when it comes to video. Why is he sort of the name and not Chris Chambers, who's, been there at this point longer?
Because Sahadi was out in front, and Sahadi was the face that was out in front, and Chambers was the unsung hero behind, and Chambers was the one a lot of times coming up with some of those ideas. They were a great team. They worked really well together, and one complemented the other. So I'm not saying, one's better than the other, because Sahadi was off the chart talented and extremely creative and did some great work. It's just a lot of times, as you say, I think Chambers gets overlooked because he was that quiet guy in the background that was maybe coming up with the idea, but he didn't pitch it to Vince, or he wasn't out in front of it, but he was the guy putting it together on the other side, or he was the one going, hey, what if we did this? And it was there was a hell of a team at that point. But the whole idea with David leaving was David wanted time off, man. He was absolutely burnt. He just wanted to get away for a while. And the feeling was, we can't just hold your job for you. If you want to leave And if we haven't filled your position, then you come back and, we can find something for you, but we're not going to say, go leave and come back and you're going to be here. That's all it was. It wasn't a big dispute or a falling out or anything like that.
Let's talk about somebody else who is leaving here. Wade Keller would report that Jamal of 3 Minute Warning had been released. Quote, his reputation in the locker room was that he was cocky and didn't do enough to protect his opponents in the ring. Jamal had been on the bubble ever since the nightclub incident that saw him being arrested after threatening a police officer who had tried to remove his wife from the club. Of course, Jamal would return a few years later as Umaga. What are your memories of his release here in the summer of 2003?
Well, my memory was the incident in the nightclub, and that it was timing wasn't good. And I think whoever it was, JR, Johnny, it just had enough at that point. They weren't going to go in, continue this roller coaster. And there were some other issues as well. That was the big one, the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't remember anybody ever saying that Eki was dangerous or anything in the ring. He was actually a hell of a talented guy, but that may have been one of the things. If someone had complained to talent relations, again, it all adds up.
Well, I can't wait for us to talk about a story on him, because I feel like Umaga is one of those really underrated characters. And obviously a lot of people have a lot of respect for his performances, but when you see him on a poll one day, vote for him. He's going to be a sleeper episode. Let's talk about Sable, who we are going to be talking about in long form sometime soon here on the show. It comes out in the torch here that she and Mark Mero have separated because Mark Mero didn't want her to return to the company, which she did. Did you ever hear about Mark not wanting her to come back, or any sort of discussion about her, maybe sort of having some marital problems here?
By the time that it got to us that there was even interest in Sable and that there may be discussions going on, I think that Sable and Mark had already been divorced. So maybe, whoever had been talent relations had been talking to her before that, and that might have been, but I really have no idea as far as that goes. All I know is that when we were talking about, they came and said, hey, what do you guys think about bringing Sable back? And everybody's like, well, yeah, that'd be great. We could use her and we could fit her into something. What about Mark Mero? That was our question. Does this mean we have to bring Mark Mero back? Nope, Mark Mero's not a part of it. As a matter of fact, they're divorced. So it's just Sable. I was like, okay, cool. So by the time that I'd even heard it, I think they were already divorced.